that dude. Bet I see you from the top, yeah, real soon. Looking down on the haters that I've been through. Told them I'll see you later, yeah, big truth. I keep a real good pace. Built a big house, damn, look at that place. Up in my mind, cause that's my space. House so big, full of positive things. And I can't be shook, cause I ain't no rook, man, I wrote the book.
Oh, welcome. We're back. Monsters of the Gridiron. Coming live. You got Will Wright, and we got a great guest who's going to be a weekly contributor, Mr. Glenn Morgan, the super football analyst. Glenn, how you doing today, brother?
Hey, man. I'm doing all well. Can't complain.
Man,
Getting close, man. Getting close. Hey, less than 2 weeks away.
It's getting close, Glenn. It's getting close. Look, when I tell you it's getting close, it's getting close. Look, I'm getting excited because, before we get into the draft, let's give a shout out to Kyler Gordon, with his extension, 3-year, $40 million. I think, 31 guaranteed?
Something like that, yeah.
He's the highest slot corner presently in the NFL right now. So, look, so we got to give Spider-Man a little love, baby. Look, I'm gonna have to call Marvel and see if we can get our guy a marketing deal. You know what I'm saying? Because no one in the league right now is representing the Avengers like Kyler Gordon is doing right now. So yeah, we proud of you, Kyler. You're gonna have a special year this year. The contract well deserved. Mm-hmm. So you gave a lot these last 3 years, and you've earned it. So we're back again, Glenn, talking draft. This week we're gonna do 2.0. See if the board shakes up differently after these 30 visits, and after the national pundits have either assassinated kids' characters or
they do that every year, don't they?
House or just dropping the value in these different kids' skill sets, so they can have them in a position for when they get on the clock.
Right,
and exactly. They can actually select them, right, for a better value for their organization.
Yeah, it's the Lions season is still in effect right now. So
the Lions season is still in effect, and when you're just sitting back hearing everything, and it's really, from what I'm seeing, they're saying it's not a lot of blue chippers this year. From talking to some of the draft experts and talking to a bunch of scouts. I'm hearing other than Abdul Carter, Ashton Jeanty, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, even though they're a lot of people saying that he's going to drop. I just don't see it. Mm-hmm. And then Mason Graham from Michigan. It's like 5 or 6 blue chippers, and then after that, there's a significant drop-off. So when you really think about this year's draft, Glenn, like last year, man, it was blue chippers all the way through the first round. How do you really see this thing unfolding this year? Do you realistically think that the Bears, if they don't get one of those top 6 blue chippers, do you think that they'll trade down?
No, but I don't necessarily think you necessarily have to have a blue chipper for it to be consider a successful draft for the Bears, especially for what the Bears need. You're right. Compared to last season, this first round is not going to have the acclaim and all the lights, bells, and whistles that last year's first round had, and deservedly so. Last year's first round was an exceptional first round. I mean, you think about the success. Just if you go with the quarterback position alone. The quarterback position was littered with a lot of success. Outside of the young man who's injured in Minnesota, all the quarterbacks played relatively well. I mean, Caleb, it was a disappointing season, but compared to what we've seen in Chicago, compared to what the adversity he had to deal with, just with being a professional to begin with and dealing with the losing your offensive coordinator early on before you even get to November, losing your head coach before you get to November, losing offensive linemen, all these things. That being said, to survive that season was still in a way somewhat successful, or at least, a completed season. We didn't see an incomplete season from him. And you look at the other, first round quarterbacks that did really well, Bo Nix, as well as Jayden Daniels, obviously having an exceptional, almost historic, in terms of winning and what he did there at Washington. But then you look at the other positions. Receivers did really well last year. You look at some of the offensive linemen did well. It was a very good first round in terms of you getting, quality. You can go probably anywhere from 20 to 25 of those guys had really good seasons. This year, and again, we don't know until everything happens, but this year, when you look at it talent-wise, it's not comparable off the top, but there's still some really good blue chippers. Travis Hunter was a name you didn't mention, but that's a guy that clearly is going to be a top 5 talent. And the fact that there's arguably, you could say that the quarterback that's being chosen this year is not as talented as maybe 3 other players that probably should be first-round picks just based off talent alone, let you know that the depth or how can we say it, the allure of the first round doesn't have what it had last year. Last year was a superstar-laden first round. This year is not going to be that. But I think you got some quality players. I think it's a very strong draft throughout the entire draft. I think when it comes to certain positions, particularly when we're talking about the Bears and what the Bears' needs seem to be, even though they addressed a lot of them in free agency, edge rusher. We still need an edge rusher opposite Montez Sweat. You look at wide receiver. You want a slot wide receiver. There are going to be some quality slot receivers available in this draft, most definitely. And you can get those guys anywhere from the 2nd through the 4th and 5th round and feel good about that player and say, hey, this guy not only may or may not start, but it's definitely going to play a lot. You can still get that lets you know that you're still getting quality if you get a guy in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round that's still going to contribute a lot this season. You look at offensive line. The Bears, although they address a lot in free agency, we still need depth. And there's still a question at left tackle, if we're being honest. And so there's some talent there at left tackle. You look at some exceptional players here and there where maybe it's not a position of need. You look at a guy like Tyler Warren at tight end because of the head coach that we have now and how good and how well and adept he is at using 12 personnel. You get a guy like Tyler Warren who is a kind of a chess piece. He's a mismatch problem. You can, if utilized the right way, that's someone that at 10 is very much viable. You look at the running back position. And again, I said before on this podcast, I've said on other people's platforms as well, and I'll continue to say it. In all my years, I'm sounding like Hawk Harrelson was with the White Sox. In all my years, Wimpy, but in all my years, my 50 years literally of watching football from the collegiate level to professional level, this is one of the, if it's not it's one of the deepest running back classes I've ever seen. You're going to get guys that are not going to be drafted at running back. Some of that's because the position has been devalued over the last, decade or so. But even still, you're going to get some guys who are not drafted, and not 1 or 2, but maybe 3 or 4 guys that will be strong contributors. You might even find like a dark horse starter who won't be drafted. That's how deep this draft class is at running back. And you got guys who have all types of whatever you're looking for. It's like a chooser's market at this point. You know what I'm saying? You can go out there like, do you need a big back? Guy like Caleb Johnson? Sure, he's there. Guy like Amari Hampton. You got like Junkins. You got these guys that are big backs that are there. You need a speed back. You got Genty. You got a guy like Braden Smith out of SMU. You've got the other ATN. You got
Trayvon Henderson out of Ohio State.
Trayvon Henderson as well. So you've got a myriad number of running backs that are versatile in terms of their skill set that you can choose from, and that's a position you don't have to get right away. If you want to, and you're specifically what you want, and this player fits your need, and you're ready to win now, sure, by all means, draft that player. 2 names come to mind off the top of the bat, and that's Genty and that's Amari Hampton. But again, you can wait and get another back later on in the draft that fits what you need. So running back position is extremely deep. The offensive line is deep, whether you want, interior offensive linemen, probably a little sparse after you get past the first couple of 2 or 3 as far as offensive tackles. But if you go later in the draft, you still got some quality guys that will be there that you can develop and put on your roster. Defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman. Really good for defensive linemen. If you go across the board with the edge rushers and your interior guys, it's a deep, deep draft class for that. So you may not have these superstar names that are there, but you get a guy like Walter Nolan later on in the 2nd or 3rd round. That's not a bad pick. If you get a mid-2nd round, if he falls to the 3rd round, you get a guy like that. You put him on a team like the Bears where you have good players there already, and he can come in and he can be situational but learn and develop. that's great. You don't have to overspend. And by that, I'm talking about your as far as your first round draft capital. You don't have to overspend with your capital this year. And the Bears are in a great position with 4 picks in the first 100 and 3 in the top 50. So I think the Bears, to your question, it's a short question, and I went on about, a typical Glenn tangent, went on for about, 8, 9, 10 minutes. But to your point, I don't believe that you have to get that blue chipper, and if he's not there, that you have to trade down. You can. I think you can do whatever you want to do. At 10, you can get the best player available, and keep that position. If someone comes to you and offers you something, by all means, accumulate some more draft capital, because you can still get players. You still need depth. I don't care who you are. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles and the way that team is comprised in terms of all the talent that they have, the front end talent. You look at these guys who won the Super Bowl last year. A lot of these guys were quote unquote backups, but still picks that they took in the first 100 for depth reasons. The year before last, and the year before last, they didn't go to the Super Bowl. They made the playoffs. But people think like, oh, the Eagles, they're nothing. I'm like, dude, are you looking at that? You look at that roster? That talent is talent heavy, because when you get guys and you can develop your guys and you draft them, you have control financially of your own situation, and it gives you more flexibility about what you can do. And you don't have to overspend. You don't have to dip into free agency, and you have money to pay the players that are your core players on the team.
And what you're saying right there, Glenn, is some of the things I wanted to tap into tonight as to why I would think we'll trade down to accumulate more draft capital, because you could get a Josh Former out of Florida State, defensive tackle, probably the 3rd round. So if you could pick up an extra second and possibly a 3rd, by trading down with that 10th pick, and then you think about it. Now think about this from a front office perspective, Glenn. Right now, as of 2025, going into 2026, we will have not one safety under contract. Right. We will have only 2 wide receivers under contract. That will be Odunze and DJ Moore. So at the end of the day, and that's hypothetically speaking, if Tyler makes the roster. So that's why I'm thinking that the areas, of course, we need another edge. We need depth at edge, but I see that Gervon Dexter is slimmed up. So I'm assuming that he's going to play some edge as well with that slimmer frame. We need another linebacker to replace Jack Sanborn. Not saying that what's his name, Panua's brother, the other suit,
yeah, right, right,
or a man, doesn't pick up that spot. So of course you got to look at and like you said, left tackle
Noah Sewell,
yeah.
Right.
So you look at left tackle. I'm torn, because you're right. You can never have enough depth. You can never have enough great talent that you select where it's cost control for 4 years.
Right.
So that gives you 4 years to develop and have more of an alignment than continuously doing these 1-year deals. Now you're starting to have like a Penei Sewell and a Frank Ragnow of talent that you're developing in-house that's ready to come in and give you 8 to 10 strong, solid years, once Joe Tooney retired, once Jonah Jackson retired. But you got that good interior offensive depth where we ain't got to see a turnkey like we've done the last, 3 years, right up the gut with pressure in Caleb face and Justin's face. And, at the end of the day, okay, I feel comfortable to say that we've somewhat solidified that. But now when you look at the other side of the trenches, now we got to solidify, do we bring in another one technique as well? Do we bring in another? Well, we signed Grady Jarrett to be a stopgap at 3 tech. But, you know what I'm saying, do we look at bringing in a Joshua Former from Florida State, because he plays 3 tech as well? And his upside is crazy. And I said this last year with Jared Verse when I was pounding the table, with that other pick after Caleb. I'm like, look, I love Rome, but I've been watching Verse for the last 4 years, and I've seen how dominant. And guess what? He got defensive rookie of the year. I think he co-shared it with Braden Fisk. So it's like, of course, hindsight is 2020, but if we're looking at, like you said earlier, you made another great point with how Howie Roseman bring in them Philadelphia Bulldogs and just have a surplus. Right. He has a surplus of rushers coming at you, where when you think you got a breather because you got another wave coming in as, inexperienced they like a bunch of hungry wolves. And with us the last 2-3 years after Sweat, it's been like Dominique Robinson, who to me, I really haven't seen the development. I haven't.
Right. Well, that's the thing too, is that, and to your point, as far as trading down and acquiring more picks, what it gives you is a greater margin for error, because you're not going to hit them. Just because you pick them don't mean it's going to work.
Correct.
More times than not, you're working with, a lot of maybes and possibilities. Nothing is necessarily a for sure guarantee. And that's eschewing injuries. We're not even talking about if a person gets injured. We talk about Brisker, we talk about injuries in a safety position. Here's a guy that on the field, most definitely, he's probably one of the top 10 safeties in the league by his play. But if you can't stay on the field, you're not doing yourself or the team any favors. And it puts things at question, and it puts you at a deficit in terms of what decisions are we going to make, and fiscally, how much can we invest in you, because your contract's about to end. So can I count on you? Am I going to pay you for someone who can't stay on the field? As callous as that may sound, that's a reality. So that's another position of need, so to speak, because of looking into the future, not just this season, as you so adeptly pointed out. Next year, who you got on contract? Who's coming back? Because if you have to go into free agency again to fill that void, now you're running the risk of, are you going to have money to pay? You're going to make the money available to pay Caleb. We understand that, and that if he progresses the way that we feel that he can and probably should, sure, you're going to make that way. But that means you're taking away from some other area. And if you don't have the talent, if you don't have the depth, then what are you going to be paying for? You get what you pay for when it comes to free agency sometimes,
Right.
So as opposed to trading down, as you mentioned, and getting a few more draft picks, now it's not so much a luxury, but now I have the fortitude to be able to draft 2 players at that position. You think back, and again, the Bears have done a great job drafting when it comes to the secondary. They really have. But you think back when they got the 2 cornerbacks, you got Smith and you got Terrell. You know what I'm saying? Tyreek. You got
Tyreek Stevenson.
Right. And you got and Terrell Smith. So it's like, dude, that's really good, because if one doesn't work out, the other one has a possibility to. If they both work out, great. Now I being the Bears administration and the front office, they have leverage now. If someone else wants to say, I want more money, you can't afford it. Or if you need to put somebody at a different position, maybe one of those guys can play in a nickel. One of those guys maybe can be a safety from time to time. Or whatever the case is, it gives you that flexibility in terms of manpower, in terms of fiscal flexibility, all that stuff. So yeah, having more draft picks, I am a fan of that because of the basically the economics of the NFL. It really mandates that you have someone there waiting in the wings, so to speak, but it's still be able to contribute and be a player, because it gives you an opportunity to move on and not have a huge drop off. And that's something that we were talking about last year. I really felt that the Bears should have traded down. I'm not going to go into all the histrionics of it, but when you draft a punter in the 4th round, you're saying you're ready. Are we that much better because we had the punter last year? No. Did he win any games because of his placement of the ball? No. Did he score any points? He's not even the kicker. The kicker at least puts 3 points on the thing. And it's not his talent. Not knock, dude. he clearly is a super talent. He has Hall of Fame talent in his leg, no doubt. I mean, he has Ray Guy type talent in his leg, maybe even a little bit stronger leg, if not the accuracy. But I think he's got the accuracy of a Ray Guy. So the talent's not the issue. It's are you getting enough value for that player at that pick for your team? And no, what was the answer? So
just think about this, man. Look, and you knocking it out the park right now. The cost control, the economics, but if you start looking at long-term sustainability, well, in order to sustain long-term, you gotta have more players that you're bringing in and developing and growing versus free agents that are coming in on 1-year deals. if you want to build that long-term continuity, that long-term sustainability. Like you said, we got 2 years before we got to pay Caleb. So you kind of got 2 years to play with, where in the next 2 years, if we hit on some of these draft picks, it gives us, like you just stated, more afforded luxury to now take that swing on that player that's going to come in and get us over the top within that window, where we'll have that luxury of ensuring that we lock down Caleb long term. And if Caleb pans out and continues to develop and grow, then that makes everyone's job easier, because he'll be able to masquerade a lot of the deficiencies and holes that we've had the last 2-3 years, when in the offseason we thought we was about to go, to the Super Bowl, to the chip. And as you can see,
I'm not part of that. I'm sorry, sir.
Well, you're right. I drank the Kool-Aid a couple of times, but as you can see this year, I've been a lot reserved. I haven't been beating the table saying I still think this year, the road schedule is challenging. But if we can squeeze, 3, 4, 5 wins, I still think we could potentially go 11-6 or 12-5. Because
you still got some sugar in that Kool-Aid, I see. You got a little sweet right there.
Look, it's thin. It's thin sugar now. It ain't that old thick red Kool-Aid sugar now.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But because I think it's more balanced now. I'm waiting to see what's gonna happen in Minnesota, because my sources are telling me that Aaron Rodgers has been trying to go to Minnesota and make a Super Bowl run and sell them also, as far as being able to mentor young J.J. McCarthy. So to me, it seems like he's trying to go the same path as Brett Favre.
It's exactly the same path. It's crazy, right? Can't make this up.
But you know how we are, though, Glenn. We create our own legacy. Why would you want to follow the same legacy of your predecessor? Like, what's the story? Why not create a new legacy? Why not go to Pittsburgh? You got 2 stud wide receivers. Knowing Pittsburgh, they don't get a running back in the draft, maybe 2 to complement Warren, and the defense is steady in Pittsburgh. Why not go to Pittsburgh, win the AFC North, and beat Pat Mahomes in the AFC Championship? Why do you want to come back to the NFC North so we can beat your head in twice a year? Why do you want to do that?
I'll tell you why. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. What's my guy in Joe in Cincinnati?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. I mean,
that's a great point, bro.
I mean, you come here, the quarterback situation isn't as daunting. There's some solid teams. I mean, the Rams look to be solid. Philadelphia, obviously, is the team to beat. Dallas has the talent, but they don't seem to have the cohesiveness between the coaching staff, the players, and on the field, and meeting expectations. Outside of that, the Lions took a huge, I don't care what anybody says, the roster is talented. They took a huge hit with the coaching staff. They lost damn near everybody. You saw what happened to Philadelphia year before last when they lost both.
I did. I saw that.
They lost both coordinators. Yeah, they went 11-6, but they weren't that. I mean, they weren't that team, and you could tell that they were not going to be that team as the season wore on. Right. You don't lose that amount of coaching acumen and think that you're just going to bounce back and be a top 3 team again. Right. That's a lot. That's going to catch up with them probably later than sooner, but it'll still catch up to them. And as you mentioned earlier with Minnesota, if Rodgers doesn't go there, their quarterback position is a huge question mark going forward. Although otherwise on their roster, their talent, and as opposed to the Lions, their coaching staff is definitely in place and probably one of the better coaching staffs, between the head coach being the de facto offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator being one of the top ones in the league. So I really don't. I mean, the Cardinals are on the come up, but you can't say that they're a dominant team. San Francisco fell completely out of the picture because they just lost so much through attrition. And Seattle, again, quarterback situation is different and questionable there. You look at the South, and I mean, you look at Tampa Bay, their coordinator left. So what kind of adjustment is going to be there for Baker? And is Baker still, if Baker, for a number one pick, I still don't ever feel like he's that guy. I think he's a good quarterback, but I don't think he's a difference maker in terms of taking the team and him being the reason why they're winning all these games. He doesn't have that cachet. I don't think. I think he's a really good player with good players around him. The Falcons are still on the come up. Carolina's not really in factor. So yeah, if you're Aaron Rodgers and you're looking at the landscape, you come back to the NFC, something that NFC Central, I'm showing my age, the NFC Northern Division. You come back here, a division that you're really acquainted with all the talent that Minnesota has, with the coaching that Minnesota has, with the receivers that Minnesota has. Yeah, man, that's a you automatically become one of the top 3 teams in NFC, and arguably one of the top 5 teams or top 7 teams, I would safely say, in all of the NFL. You go to Pittsburgh, you're still middle of the pack when it comes to the good teams. So yeah, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, it makes a lot more sense to come back to Minnesota, and you can probably play for 2 years. You probably really can, or you can have one hell of a send off this season if if you do well enough with this team. I mean, they are Super Bowl ready outside of the quarterback position. Everywhere else, they're Super Bowl ready.
You're spot on, and the NFC is, unfortunately, compared to the AFC right now, considerably weaker. Look like the 49ers have fell off a cliff. Their whole team just got gutted this past offseason. Mm-hmm. You look at the Eagles, they won the Super Bowl, so you got to give them their flowers as being the dominant team in the NFC. But realistically, after the Eagles, the Commanders with Jaden Daniels.
I would say the Rams, and then probably the Rams. Then I'd say maybe Green Bay and Washington are pretty equitable. But
what about Detroit, though?
Too much of it. The rosters are there talent-wise, but all that coaching staff, dude, the whole coaching staff got gutted. There's going to be a drop-off there. They kind of fall to the middle of the pack. I'll put it this way. When you're talking about the NFC, if you're Rodgers and you go to Minnesota, the only teams you can say quantifiably that are probably better than you are the Eagles based off of what they've done, and maybe the Rams because of what that head coach has done and with the quarterback that's still in place and that they've gotten better as a team. But after that, everybody else is either where you're at or a little bit lower, or they're question marks. The Bears are talented. The Bears can beat pretty much almost any team in the NFL, all things being said. But can they do it week in and week out? It's new coaching staff. The coaching staff is learning the players. Players are in the coaching staff. There's an adjustment period. The Rams, it's entirely new coaching staff. You just said the 49ers are being gutted. Seattle lost its quarterback, so you're there, and they lost their receivers. So now, where are they at? You look at Atlanta. Who's going to be the quarterback?
Michael Penix is the quarterback.
Yeah, okay. Until they get rid of the old man, we'll see what happens. So. But even with that, even if it is Michael Penix, I'm rooting for him, and I want him to be that guy. He's probably still, a season or two ahead of being a situation where Atlanta could say we're challenging for the Super Bowl. Like you go to Minnesota, you are challenging for the Super Bowl. I'm not talking about you a playoff team. You're challenging for the Super Bowl. And I don't just mean show up at the Super Bowl. You're challenging. You're a challenger to win the Super Bowl. Because you have that good a coaching staff. You have a quarterback who's a Hall of Fame quarterback. You have a Hall of Fame wide receiver. You have a receiver who won the Biletnikoff Award as one of the top, maybe, wingmen in the NFL. You got a tight end that's one of the top 7 tight ends in the league. You got an offensive line that's probably one of the best 7 offensive line in the league. You got a defense that's arguably a top 5 defense because of the talent and the head coach. There's very little. You got a good kicking game. There's very little weakness other than that damn quarterback position. So, and here's the thing. Here's the crazy thing. And no one's really saying it because he hasn't played in J.J. McCarthy. But to be quite honest, you're talking about a guy who was a first-round pick, guy who won a national championship, a guy who has had a whole year to absorb mentally, the playbook. And now if Aaron Rodgers does go there, he's sitting behind him, but he's not only is he learning behind him, but now your depth at quarterback is probably as good, if not better, than anybody else's in the league. So, yeah, if you go to Minnesota, you're challenging for the Super Bowl. Matter of fact, I'll say this right now. if Aaron Rodgers goes to Minnesota, I expect Minnesota to be in the Super Bowl because it's hard to repeat.
Yeah.
Not saying Philadelphia can't do it. It's
Right.
hard to repeat. And look, I like Jalen Hurts, but I've said this before too. I haven't said it often. And I know I'm going to catch hell because I say it. If people think I'm still holding the torch, whatever you might think, Jalen Hurts is what Justin Fields could have been if he had what Jalen Hurts had.
That's a bold statement, Glenn. That's a bold statement.
Dude, Jalen Hurts is a nice quarterback, but he ain't picking motherfuckers apart. Excuse the French. He just isn't. He's not slicing and dicing. He had all the time in the world to throw passes in the Super Bowl. He had all that time most of the season.
The Eagles got one of the top offensive lines in the league now.
Offensive line.
Top 3 for sure.
Oh, without a doubt. He's got the top receiving tandem in the league, receiving core in the league if you throw in the tight end. He got the best running back in the league.
Saquon Barkley.
And you got a top 3 defense. and you had the best. You have arguably you have a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator.
Vic Fangio.
Can't go nowhere. Now, they lost the offensive coordinator. So, again, like I said, it's hard to repeat. So, there could be a bit of a drop-off. But I'm saying, you look at what they had last year, and the offensive coordinator had last year, who was formerly with the Cowboys, and we had it 1 year with the Chargers. You look at the wealth of talent and experience they had. And you had a team that really, there wasn't a lot of loss from the team that had gone to Super Bowl 2 years prior to that. So you have an experienced team that's young, that's got younger in certain areas, but the talent is there and everything, and they had a pretty decent year in terms of injuries. So, yeah, dude, like Jalen Hurts was in a great position to be able to develop. Justin never got that chance to develop in a better situation like that. To me, Jalen Hurts coming out of college was not better than Justin Hurts better than Justin Fields coming out of college. But Jalen improves each year, but you got to be in the right situation at the right time, man. If you're not, it could ruin your career. We've seen it happen to other quarterbacks. And I'm not saying Jalen Hurts, or I'm not saying that Justin Fields is end all be all. All I'm saying is that if you look at them, if you take them, and Justin's a better athlete. I'm not saying there's I'm not saying there's a huge gap, but he's as big, if not a little bigger, and he's definitely faster. And he's definitely more dangerous out of the pocket than outside of Lamar Jackson. He's probably the most dangerous person outside the pocket.
But look at what you said, though, Glenn. Like Glenn, like you making great points and you sustaining great points. Since day one with Jalen Hurts being with the Eagles, he's had a great offensive line. He got an upgrade. He got an upgrade now at running back to Saquon Barkley. Because guess who his running back was before Saquon?
Swift. The year before, yeah.
They traded. Think about it. They traded for AJ Brown and drafted Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
So it had Dallas Goedert controlling the middle. So he had the pieces. Everybody's been together the entire time, and he's growing, he's developing, and he's continuing to elevate his play with the supporting cast. So we could beat that dead horse. I won't, because
right.
Justin's no longer here. But if we give Caleb what he needs, and he has, I think his ceiling is going to be at the White House. I'm talking about to the top of the chandeliers. I like, if Caleb gets the time, and you said, like you just stated earlier, with if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Vikings, you expect him to be in the Super Bowl.
I do.
Right now, I expect Caleb to throw for 4,000 plus.
Yes.
30 plus touchdowns, another 5 to 7 rushing. Because now with that, the one thing I like about Caleb, he has great peripheral vision. Like if Braxton Jones get beat a lot of time, he can either spin out, and if he ain't getting no pressure up the middle, he can slide inside of Braxton Jones and still be able to make a play versus being a sitting duck when Braxton Jones is getting bull rushed. And I'm hoping if they don't select a left tackle, and what's his name? The guy we got last year from Yale?
Karan.
If Karan doesn't develop this year, that at least Braxton is serviceable where he's just not getting demolished like we've seen on that bull rush, on the power move. Because in space, running, Bryson
great.
Jones is a hell of a left tackle.
Yeah.
But when he has tackles, to be stationary, man, he's been getting demolished for 3 years as far as being, because like Ben Johnson said, he needs to add some beefcakes to the caboose. He got to. I don't know if he need to get with Olin or you know, the new offensive coach we just added, offensive line coach. But it's like, bro, he might need to go to Israel Adonijah's restaurant and just fatten up on steaks and T-bone, and because if that doesn't improve, then we're gonna see a lot of unfortunately, I think, tight end help on that side. That's what I feel we're gonna have to see this season.
That's where the 10th pick could be Tyler Warren. And that's where I'm saying, you know, you take the best player available. Tyler Warren helps you out with offensive line blocking and protection. Tyler Warren helps you with that third receiver you're looking for. Tyler Warren helps you with mismatch situations in terms of he can be in the backfield. So again, he help you either blocking as a lead blocker or utilizes as an H-back type kind of talent. A guy where you can isolate him on a linebacker and he's going to win that. You can maybe isolate him on a safety because of his size. He may win that. It helps out your other receivers. It helps out the middle of the field. He solves a lot of potential questions when it comes to where the Bears may have their deficiencies offensively. You just mentioned the line, and you've also regarded the third receiver being a certain situation as well. Now, yeah, you want a traditional slot receiver because you can stretch the field and third down, all that. Tyler's not going to stretch the field like a slot receiver in terms of speed, but he may not stretch it vertically, but you know, width-wise and in terms of getting those hard third down yards, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, you know, you don't need to stretch the field to convert a third down, and you keep the chains moving. And you have a player like Caleb, a guy who has the athleticism and the knack for, you know, playing outside the pocket and still being able to deliver the ball. If you have athletes who can run with you and they can adjust their routes and they have football IQ and you get in sync with them based upon whatever the scheme is, but based upon what you've done in practice, based upon what's required and asked of you at your position, you're going to be hard pressed to really stop the Bears, one of those 4 guys getting open, whether it's Kmet, whether it's Warren if he's on the team, whether it's DJ or whether it's Odunze, or even the running back, because Swift is really good out the backfield too as far as a pass catcher. So you're having athletic guys who have the ability to adjust to a quarterback who likes to play, you know, basically, and he's super creative. You know, he has that mindset, okay, this broke down, I can make something happen. Getting a guy like Tyler Warren, he's not the offensive lineman. No. He's not the edge rusher. No. He's not that stretch the field slot guy. He's not the safety necessarily that you might want to be able to get in the first round if you trade down and you get in the mid-late 20s and you can get one of those top-tier safeties. He's not that. But damn if he don't solve a lot of problems you have if you pick him on offense. It's like 4 different positions he affects, 4 different areas, I should say, that he affects. He affects your offensive blocking. He affects your ability to convert third downs. He affects your ability to have a third receiver. He affects your ability to be able to have mismatches. That's a lot. And that's worth the top 10 pick. And that's why I keep beating the horse for him to some degree.
Oh, hold on, Glenn. I'm getting a call. Who it is? Oh, sound like the commissioner. Let's see what he's talking about. Hold on, Glenn. Oh, hold on. We on the board already. We ain't on the board already, are we? We on the board.
Hey, no time like the present.
Who we looking at? Who you thinking, Glenn? Come on, cause sound like you beating the table for Tyler Warren. And as you can see, the Bengals just offered us 17-49. What you think? You
know what? I would take that.
You'll take it?
I would take that. Yeah, I would take you. Man, now all of a sudden you went from having 4 picks you picked up another picks. Now you got 5 picks in the first 50.
And guess what? We still can get Tyler Warren.
Then I would do it. I'm not trying to trade in the division. I'm not trying to help the Vikings out at all.
Look, you got Mason Graham and you got Tyler Warren.
So I see Mason Graham ain't gonna be there. We know that ain't gonna happen. Mason Graham ain't gonna be there. But Imamori, I'm pumped for him. I would not be upset with that. But again, as much as I know we need to address the safety position, I don't necessarily need to take him there. I do. I mean, hey, man, Booker is not bad either. Luther Burden is not a bad spot. You know, you get that slot receiver that you're talking about. But I think you need to have a person, if you're going to go offense right now, even if you're going skill position, I think you need to have a guy that doesn't have to be, you don't have to justify his usage in terms of his productivity by being a top pick if you take Warren. And what I mean by that is there's only one ball. You know, DJ's going to command getting the ball, and he should. Same thing with the Dunze. You know, he's going to have a connection. Him and Caleb were joined at the hip since they came in as rookies. Right. And you need to focus on your running game so that you help your quarterback out, so he's not, you know, constantly running for his life. You get a guy, and then Kmet he was a forgotten man in the offense last year. You need to, you know, there's a reason why you're paying him. You need to get him the ball too. So getting a guy like Warren, it makes sense still because he can still be effective with the blocking. He can still be effective in spelling Kmet. He can still be effective, you know, wherever you use him. You can put him in the backfield. You can still utilize that guy. He doesn't just have to be in one area. You get Imamori, basically, if Brisker's healthy, he's going to start, and your nickel guy in the slot is going to be Gordon. So he's sitting on the sidelines. You know what I'm saying? You're not getting your value per se this season. But with Warren, you can get it immediately because he can be on the field in so many different areas, so many different times. So I'm still good with Warren. There's still safeties out there. You can still get one that can be the backup this year that can move into the starter position going forward.
And like you said, when you have the opportunity to get number 39, 41, and 49, you know, I'm looking at running back. I'm looking at edge.
Yep. Offensive line.
And potentially offensive tackle, not in that particular order.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Oh, Kansas City just gave us another trade offer, 63 and 66.
Nah, I'm valued 39 pick too much. I still want some time. I still want some top end talent. And again, you mentioned it earlier. It's not a high blue chip type kind of draft. So
right,
as if I can get as many top 50 picks without giving up anything, then I feel better about the quality of my draft class as I'm improving the depth at the same time.
What you think about Jonah Savaiinaea?
Oh, you know, I actually like that. I'm not upset at that at all. Let me see what edge rusher do we have that's still available at this point. Can you go to
we got some good depth at edge now. We got as you can see, got your boy Jordan Burch, Kyle Kennard, Jack Sawyer.
Yeah, I still I think Sawyer still be there, so I don't have to address that. You know what? I like getting the offensive tackle from Arizona because he can also slide inside as well.
And he's a dog.
Yeah, and it puts a little heat on Braxton to get his stuff together. And this is Braxton's, you know, it's his contract year. So if he's not able to, this young man could possibly be your left tackle going forward. So I would take him. I'm fine with taking him at that pick. Again, I'm not trying to give up. I mean, 55 is not too far from top 50, but again, there's little space between 39 and 41. I can still get what I want, and I know if I know what I want, I can still get it, and I don't have to wonder if that player or the position for that player is still going to be available. So no, I say no to the Chargers at this one,
and definitely no to Seattle, huh?
Yeah, I'm not worried. I mean, you know, a second round pick next season is not bad to have. If you told me I can do that and I don't have to give up pick 148, I'd probably do it, but Seattle probably wouldn't want to make that move. 50 is not bad because we already got the 49th pick, I believe, from the trade we made earlier. So you got back-to-back picks there. That one's actually I'm not too pissed at that one, to be quite honest with you. That's intriguing. What running backs do we have available before we take?
Well, you know that's what I'm about to look at next. Running back, we should have a stable.
Now,
As you can see,
Amari is not going to be there. Amari is not going to be there.
No, he's not. So
you know what? Let's for shits and giggles, let's take the Seattle pick, because now I'm leveraging something for next year too. And Seattle, I don't think will be as good as they were last year, so that could be a top 40 pick next year.
Good point. Jack Sawyer just went off the board.
Oh, that hurts me a little bit. No, I got to keep 49 now. No, thanks, New England. I didn't think Sawyer would go that early. I thought he would be around to the 60s.
Yeah, I don't want to trade with us again.
Nah, I'm rejecting that one. No, thank you. We got back-to-back picks here.
So who you thinking on this one?
What edge rusher is available?
That's what we got to look at, because Jack Sawyer just got picked up. I'm like, what? Your boy Jordan Burch.
Yeah, I'm not mad at Burch. Here's the reason why I'm not mad at Burch. He's athletic enough.
There go Princely.
Umam
Yeah.
I'm not pissed at that either. Let me get my running back. I'm gonna take Judkins.
Okay.
And who do we have at safety?
New England on the. Hey,
Seattle
New England
again.
persistent, boy.
You know what? I'm gonna take that Seattle pick. Because
you want to take that trade?
Yeah, I'm gonna take that
52 or 123.
Yeah, because I gave up 140 something earlier, so I move up. Yeah.
We go to Giants. Reject?
No, yeah, reject. Goodbye.
So now we got to go edge. Whew. He go to pick so far. And it looks good so far, but we got to get an edge now, Doc.
I think we need to. We got to start addressing the defense at this point. So
yes, Josh Former, that they got him. We probably get him at 72 at 3 tech.
What we got at you still on offense? What do we got at defensive edge?
Let's go edge. Jordan Burch.
I was going to say, because of his size, and we know how Dennis Allen likes big edge rushers.
I'm trying to figure out why Princely, Yuma Milan is dropping though.
Same reason why Marion probably stood up there. I mean, some stuff's just not going to make sense. You know what? It's according to this draft, it's a bit of a reach, but he won't be there at 123. I want a little more burst off the edge, so I'm going to take Umam Yellen. I'll take Princely. I think he was successful at 2 different schools, and
Florida and Ole Miss.
Yeah, and I think he gives you that first step burst that we don't really have on that side of the ball. And then you still got Booker as well. So you got some guys with different types of athleticism. Booker's more rangy, long arm, a loping stride. Umam Yellen's got more of a burst, that bendability, that Gumby style to kind of bend and get around the edge. And I think he holds up a little bit better against the run, at least at this juncture, than Booker does. So I like the athleticism that we have now on the edge. And then again, sometimes you can slide, you can potentially slide Montez inside, and then you get Umam Yellen and Booker. You get more, athleticism coming at you off the edge while you get that pressure from inside. So, and hey, Bears can mess around, dude, and have a 5-man front while you're playing.
Right.
And to really cause some havoc. And because if you're really creative, you get a 5-man front like that, but you've got Booker and you've got Umam Yellen and you've got Grady, you got Montez inside, and you've got my guy from Florida, Gervon Dexter. You have an ability with those guys. You can drop some of those guys back into like a zone. Yeah. And you don't know which one you're dropping back. Grady probably won't go back, but the other 4 guys possibly could. Or you can flare them out, out into the flat a little bit. You got some flexibility with the athleticism, and whoever else you want to have is playing your at your linebacker. And with the linebackers that you have, those guys can cover laterally as well. Right. So I don't mind that. And with the safety that we have, you get enough pressure with that front 5. I mean, it's a little collegiate having that 5-2 front, but dude, I mean, you can cause some straight up havoc with that. So yeah, I like Umam Yellen there because it gives you a lot more creative flexibility of what you can do with your defensive front.
So at 72, because I don't like this trade offer from
No,
Arizona.
no, thank you. No, thank you.
Do we go wide receiver or do we go safety?
What do we have at safety? You've got
you got Andrew.
Now I don't know that he would still be there. I could see Xavier Watts still being there and Ransom out of Ohio State still being there. But dude, if Makuba's still there, I'm not even thinking about it. But let me see what your wide receiver is before we jump on that, because there's one wide receiver at the slot position who I love.
Ooh, Isaiah Bond.
He ain't gonna be there, bro. He ain't.
Who, Isaiah Bond?
Yeah, he ain't gonna be there.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so, dude. He might be.
What about Jalen Noe?
I'm a big fan of him. That's
no, they got Kyron Lacy. I'm about to break down, bro.
Yeah, I know. You know, got to change that. That's
a good kid, man. I'm sad about that, man.
Yeah, most definitely. RIP for sure, man. That's just sidebar. That's how you always say, man. You've always been really good at that, checking in on people, man, and checking on people's mentals, man, and just checking on our brothers, man. Like, where are you? How are you? Yeah. And I'll say this, man. As huge as I am a big fan of Jalen Noel, I have a hard time passing up Makuba. I really do. And there are other slot receivers that'll be available. So yeah, I would take Makuba out of Texas as safety, just because. Dude, safety issue is going to be such an Isaiah ain't gonna be there. You
said safety. My bad.
Yeah.
Got you. You said okay, Andrew Makuba.
Yeah, you have to, because you don't know. You four guys are going. You don't know what your secondary could be completely eviscerated because of free agency. Here,
right?
It gives you a little more footing going forward.
Right.
Slot receiver. The Bears have several on staff now for this season. There's going to be another really talented slot receiver available by the time the Bears draft again. I don't know who that will be, but they'll still be there at that point in time.
Kyle Williams, I think he did a visit to Chicago, and as I said, he was just picked up by the Browns.
Oh, there goes Jalen Noel. I didn't think he'd be there by the time the Bears draft. What 123 is the next pick?
Yeah.
So Tez Johnson. It's a possibility.
Ted's got the dropsies though.
Yeah, got that speed though, man. No, I'm not.
Oh no, now just 3 slots.
It's just 3 slots.
There's 3, and you picking up 194.
Yeah, but what is 194? That's like what, 6th round?
Hey, bro, that's special teams, dog. That's special teams.
Nah, I think I value 123 more.
Jalen Royals.
Who else we got as far as slot receivers go? Oh, I'm not pissed at Keandre Lambert-Smith. Let's look at offensive line, man, or D tackle as well.
So I think all the good.
Omar Norman. Yep. Right.
Omar Norman.
Yep.
Look. When I saw that, I was like, that was a no-brainer.
Yep. No-brainer, sure.
I go your boy Tez. He out the board. going into the 5th round. I guess we might be able to pick up a good wide receiver.
Yeah, should be.
We just need a speed guy.
Well, someone, like you said, doesn't have the dropsies, so
that's it. That has a nice catch radius. Damn, Keandre Lambert-Smith just went off the board to the Giants. All them Colorado boys should be there. I think Webster just came off the board.
Here's the thing, too. I'm not losing sleep if we don't get a slot receiver, because again, Warren helps us with the 3rd receiver, and there are a number of receivers that we got in free agency. And to me, slot receiver is one of those positions that you can fill in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not losing sleep over that. I'd be much more concerned if we didn't have a number 1 or a number 2 or a solid tight end. Then I'd be more concerned. as far as having to have that position.
But when you had that one receiver that could take the roof off top of the defense, man, like Williams for the Lions, it just opens it up for everybody.
It does, no doubt. But right now,
and it gives you more flexibility in the mismatches too.
It's an immediate weapon, but you look how the Bears are comprised right now. Right now, it's like, you know what? Move the chains, score your touchdowns. How are you gonna be in the red zone? We ain't throwing deep passes every time. It's just not the case. That happens. If you're lucky 5 to 7 times in the game, you're able to stretch that out. More times than not, it's a lateral game. You're going across the field. You're not always going down as much. And your high percentage passes are your ones that are not 20 plus yards. It's the ones that are 10 to 15, and you're going across the field. It's the 3-yard pass to your left and to your right. With these slot receivers, to these receiver screens you see all every day.
Right.
And with your tight ends, you got 2 tight ends. So think about what New England did when they had, Hernandez, aside from his off the field stuff, but Hernandez and Gronkowski, they were killing fools with that double tight end. They didn't have a killer receiver at number 1.
Yep, they had the mismatches, boy. Could nobody hold the linebacker say they couldn't hold Hernandez or Gronk.
And the running game was on fire. They could get whatever yards they needed to get, and they were efficient. To me, man, efficiency generally in the NFL will trump. Dude, if Will Shepherd is there, jump. Oh man, Will Shepherd. Oh yeah, for real. I mean,
and we got 240.
I mean, Arian Smith has got more speed, but Will Shepherd, dude, that if he wasn't playing at Vanderbilt, he probably would have been a bigger name. Most of his career is at Vanderbilt, and then last year, he'd been at Missouri. He's splitting time with Luther Burden, was kind of the headliner there. But Will Shepherd is a solid wide receiver, and that's a guy again you can depend on third down. I mean, it's not like he's slow. He's got good speed. He's is he a burner? No, but he's got good speed. Like you just said earlier, some of these guys are burners, but they got no hands. So what good is it?
I'm talking about, bro, like that little Giants boy. He was fast, but it was like trying to catch toilet paper. Everything go through his hand.
Wet toilet paper.
Wet toilet paper. Yeah, we got 240. What you think? Another lineman?
Offensive lineman. Yeah, for certain. And at this point, I'm looking for.
Ooh, hey, I met this kid right here at the Senior Bowl.
You know what? I'm always a big proponent of drafting young men out of HBCUs.
Yes, sir.
Because they get underlooked, they get overlooked, and they're underestimated.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody's hungry, those young men are generally hungry to prove themselves. So,
but like I told him, the only issue I had with him that he plays Kappa. Other than that,
hey, what really? You coming at me like that, bro? Getting below the belt? Really? Is that what we're doing here? Come on now.
He plays Kappa.
He did the right. He did the right thing. I don't know what the problem is. He did the right thing. I mean, as far as I'm concerned,
he should have been an alpha, baby. He should have been an alpha.
You know what? You only got one decision to make in this world at times. So make the best one for you. And clearly, he chose properly.
Look, I think that's a solid draft right there.
I mean, I'm looking at guys that I don't see any of them. Maybe Vincent might be the one you might say might not make the team, but the first 6 undoubtedly are making the team.
Oh yeah, no.
And I feel good about Shepherd and Vincent too. But I mean, I look at this right here, and Warren's going to play. Junkins is going to play. Umayalan's going to play. You're looking at solid backups to build around that might get time if there's injury, but they may get time if, just from time to time to get your feet wet. And Jonah out of Arizona and Makuba and Lott, guys that are rotational guys. And then Shepherd, if he really does well, understands, the playbook and understands how to get open as a receiver in the NFL, he can be that guy. But he might be someone that doesn't dress from week to week, but you're
Mhm.
looking for him to be that player coming into the next season. And because there'll be open spots there, because you're going to lose about 3 or 4 guys that are on the team right now at that slot
Correct.
position. But you have someone that you have, basically it could be a red shirt year for him, to be quite honest with you.
And
But
and, and,
he
and
has the
look,
talent and a
if
good
we want
size
to
too.
build, it got to be, and we want to build sustained success with development. You got to hit on 4 or 5 of these draft picks. The next 2 years we should get, I would hope, a good solid 5 to 7 starters on good cost control contracts. You know what I'm saying? Where, worst case, because if you look at Grady Jarrett's deal, it's really for 2 years, and then the third
Right.
year you can opt out.
Right. Well, that's where your Omar Norman lot makes sense.
Absolutely. So to me, I look at that as a 2-year mentorship.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Without a doubt. But while playing, just like you look at what's my guy from Philadelphia, that the real big brother out of Georgia, that came out the year before. Jordan Davis. He didn't play a lot his rookie year, but you can't tell me that stuff don't revolve around him now. He's too damn big and athletic. He's a problem, dude.
Man, he's too big, he's too massive, he's too athletic. You hitting the nail on the head, Glenn. I'm telling you, you cooking with Crisco right now.
He's a problem. And I like what we did here. If things played out close to this, I'd be happy. But the one thing I'm saying, to be able to acquire a 2nd round pick and not really having to give up anything and still being able to get a player, or at least a position that you want addressed, that really plays into what you're saying as far as next year getting another core element. Because you get a 2nd round pick from Seattle, that's top 50. I mean, undoubtedly. But you're talking about potentially where Seattle may fall. That could be a top 35. I think be a top 40 pick. That could be a top 40 pick.
Who the quarter? Sam Darnold.
Yeah, Sam Darnold. But the receivers are gone. They didn't resign Lockett, and DK Metcalf is gone. So basically, you got Smith and Jigba, and what else you got? You got the running game, and you got a decent line, but not nowhere near as good a line as you had in Minnesota.
So we got to jump on them picks if we get that type of trade offer.
I think that's where it can benefit you. Again, not this year, but securing yourself. And here's the other thing too. Even if you don't pick a player, it becomes something that you can package.
Right. Facts.
And so like what you were saying earlier, say the Bears do really well this year, let's say they go 9-8, 10-7, maybe even 11-6, even if they go 8-9, but the arrow's pointing up, kind of like how we saw with Detroit a couple of years back. They didn't quite make the playoffs, but the arrow was pointing up to what we saw season before last, right? Well, with this pick, this Seattle pick secured, a 2nd round pick, you package that. Now you can move and get that specific blue chip player that you can really see that can be the difference, whatever area that might be, whether it's on the defense or, whether it's, that slot receiver now that's fire, or whether it's that, I don't know, whatever it could be. It could be, whether it's that 3 technique, So now you have a rotation like Philadelphia has, where you're sending wave after wave, and you're not worried about the money. You're not worried about, are you gonna have enough money to pay Javon Dexter? You're not worried if Zach Pickens has to make the team in order for you to have the depth. You're not worried about that, because now you're cooking with a lot more ingredients, as they say. You have more spice you can add. You got more flavors that you can do. You have more, more options, and you've got a really good defensive coordinator who's not going anywhere anytime soon. Hey, you can weaponize your defense just as much as you can weaponize your offense. And so maybe this year, we looked at the picks we did here. The first 3 picks were offensive laden, okay? The next 3 were defensive. Maybe next year you leave with the first pick overall being, a shutdown corner. So Henderson's been acting out a little bit. Tyreek, he's getting cut. You got a shutdown corner. Opposite, you got a shutdown corner with the front that we have here applying pressure, or maybe there's that linebacker that's just that MF, that linebacker that, this dude, he ain't Ray Allen, but you get your linebacker who's 6'2", 230 something, 6'3", 230 something, somebody that can play all 3 downs. you get a talent like, I'm not saying that this player is necessarily going to be there,
Right.
but you get a guy that, what's my guy in with the Dallas Cowboys?
Michael Parsons.
You have a talent that's Micah Parsons-esque, where wherever you put him, he's a problem.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh my God, you got that guy behind that line with that secondary behind him. Whoa.
And at the end of the day, with the talent we got, Glenn,
yeah,
I got my faith in his coaching staff. I'm gonna be honest. Because Al Harris, Antoine Randall, those two right there,
Eric
I think those are gonna be JT Barrett, Eric Bieniemy. Like, I think those are some solid finds that's gonna really amp up the development in all of these guys. And either you're gonna have to shit or get off the pot. It's one or the other. Ain't no happy median.
Right. Not only that, but you run the risk, and it's a good risk, I should say, of the talent you're getting with the coaching staff you have, that they do well. You're going to start losing coaches because you are doing well. When's the last time you could say that happened in Chicago?
And we get some supplemental picks.
Yeah, you get some of those. Well, potentially, yeah. If they're players of color, yeah, you know, most definitely. Right. But here's the thing: when's the last time? And I don't know if you can point to a first time, but when's the last time you saw the Bears coaching staff being rated?
Well, I was getting ready to say, look, I was already ready to hop on that when you. And look, once again, because you're a sharp tool in the drawer, you caught yourself and said it. I was getting ready to say, when was the first time?
Yeah.
Like, other than, okay, Dicker left and went to the Saints, but, you know, it wouldn't be a trade and we didn't really get no picks in.
No, who off his staff was being rated?
That's the thing. Exactly. Look,
like Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera was off Lovey's staff. I mean,
when was the last coaching tree out of Chicago where you had
we
successful like the trio of McDaniels and LaFleur? You know, when have you seen that? I've never seen that.
There has been no tree. I mean, Dick is the most successful coach in terms of winning a Super Bowl.
It's been dead roots. What you mean tree?
No, I'm saying, it's been it's been seeds lost in between the gravel. It hasn't even grown. Nothing's taken root. I mean, you talk. Adam Gase was the only person I think that left here that became a head coach. You know, in terms of he wasn't a name. Like you had Nick Fangio, but he was already Nick Fangio. He wasn't
right. He was already self-made.
Right. So yeah, man. It's like, you know, Ron Rivera might be the only one that left off of a staff, and I think he left mainly because they got rid of him. It wasn't because Lovey didn't want him around because he saw him as a threat. You know,
right.
But Ron Rivera might be the only one that had success, as a coach outside of here who wasn't a name, someone who developed as a coach. So yeah, man, here, and that's part of the development that no one really talks about, Will. They don't talk about how the coaching staff also has to mature, grow, adjust, develop as well. I mean, you look at the Eagles, people may not like the head coach, but both his offensive coordinators were no names and they've been head coaches. And have they had a lot of success in Indianapolis and Arizona? Not necessarily, but no one's talking about they're going to be fired anytime soon. And Arizona's arrow is starting to point up. And it looks as though the Colts really just need to solve the quarterback situation, and they're going to be a factor in the AFC South. So yeah,
that's
man.
Why I say watch the Colts in the draft because they might go quarterback in the first round. I'm just saying.
I don't. They won't because they signed what's his name?
Joe Flacco.
No. The kid from the Giants, Daniels. No.
Who?
The former Giant quarterback.
Oh, Daniel Jones?
Daniel Jones.
And why they won't go quarterback again?
Because they still got the 4th pick overall on the draft on the team.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's why they won't go quarterback again.
Okay.
And here's the
I
thing.
need more than Daniel Jones. I'm sorry.
Well, here's the thing. And I'm not saying Daniel Jones is the answer to all their questions.
Trash.
Well, yes, to some degree, but again, outside of Saquon Barkley, the Giants didn't have a lot around him.
Facts.
And the offensive line was not good at all. but you have an athletic quarterback. You have a guy who still runs a 4.5, a guy who can still take the ball and run for 50 yards and score a touchdown. And we've seen what Steichen has done when he had Jalen Hurts. And I would say that Daniel Jones is as good a passer of the ball than Jalen Hurts is. Now, he hasn't had the success, but he's as good a passer. Now, you have that offensive line in front of him in Indianapolis with the running back that he has behind him, with the wide receivers they have on that team already, with a defense that's got some oomph behind it a little bit. I'm just saying, with the coaching that they have there, and you have him in place right now, so he's got the playbook, all that stuff, and he's a veteran, so you don't have a guy who's fresh to the NFL. That might be one of the – everyone shitted on Sam Darnold. Not your boy.
Right.
I didn't. Hey, look, motherfuckers looked at me like I was lost my mind. They thought I was a Vikings fan. I said, y'all don't understand what the Vikings did by getting Sam Darnold. You got a guy that got all that bad juju out of him because he was a bad Jets team, went to a worse Carolina Panthers team, went to San Francisco, got some of that bad stuff out of him. It's the same type of system, conceptually speaking. So he hit the ground running in Minnesota with all that talent around him. I'm like, there's no way in hell. I said JJ wasn't going to be a starter even if he was healthy last year. Right. And you saw what they did last year with Sam Darnold, who leveraged that to a bigger contract in Seattle. Now, I don't think he'll have the same success in Seattle because, again,
not even close.
He's the kind of guy that needs to have the coaching around him, but also the players around him to help him be consistent. He'll have moments. But to be consistent, to be what he was last year. You take Daniel Jones, who's been to a playoff game with an average team overall offensively, with one exceptional talent in Saquon, obviously. But that was an average team offensively with not the good offensive line. You take him, you put him with a coach who's been a coordinator that took a team to a Super Bowl that outside of a Jalen Hurts fumble probably would have won that freaking Super Bowl.
You're right. Okay. I agree with that.
A guy who was supposed to be developing the quarterback in Richardson, who can't stay on the field and who still is super inexperienced. But now you have two athletes at the quarterback position. You have the most athletic quarterbacking tandem in all of the NFL. Okay. And you have wide receivers. Pittman is a strong number one. Again, underrated. You know, Josh Downs, really good slot receiver. All they need is a tight end. Actually, you know, they probably want someone like Tyler Warren, or they can get Colston Loveland out of Michigan, and that will make them a much more dynamic. But that offensive line is solid. The running back is solid. I'm telling you, the Colts could win that division. And
I think,
dude. Why? Because the Texans don't have offensive line, bro.
Yeah, well, you know what? With the loss of Tunsil, I give you that.
Who's blocking?
I give you that one.
Who's blocking?
You're right. With the loss of Larry, that in itself is a major loss.
Yeah, if Stroud get hit, look, we done seen him get knocked out of games before.
Out of there. He out of there.
The Texans, yes, on paper right now, based off of making back-to-back playoff, you would think that that's their division to win. I'm saying don't sleep on the Colts because the Colts were this close to making the playoffs again.
You're right. You're right.
I'm just saying. Look, man.
Look. They was a quarterback away. So look, as always, me and Glenn bringing the funk, we bringing the fire. We're gonna do one more draft before the actual draft takes place, and we want this one to be more interactive with our fans, with the chat, with everybody that's supporting us on the day-to-day. So everybody do your homework because next week y'all gonna be on the clock. So look, me and Glenn, we got some other official business to take care of. So we want y'all to put them claws up and bear down. Let them feel it.
Yeah, there we go.